um, George Bush. But I admit the thing about with Liquid Pleasure is that we'd already met all the rest of the Bushes but him. That's the only one I hadn't met. I had met his father. We actually played for his father's attorney. And at that place we played, I met every Supreme Court justice at that time because they were at that party. Had a chance to meet Jimmy Carter. I've actually had a chance to meet Trump Jr. It's a situation of sometimes, and I'm not saying it differently for him or anybody else, but it's the appearance of what you see sometimes from the person that you see and the person that you meet, and that's more so towards Bush, because he was actually. I went in from looking at him from the outside, thinking of him one way, but when I met him, I looked at him a different way. There was still a lot of things I didn't agree with, but I looked at him a bit different. My greatest situation that I've ever had in my life as far as a situation was President Obama, because when I grew up, when I was real little, I remember in elementary school, they used to have a song that they would have us sing, every boy could be president. And would name off all these people, George Washington, name all these other people. And even then, as a small child, I was like, that's great, but none of these people really represent me as a black person.
Right.
And then when he became president, I thought about that song again, and I could say, you know what, now I can sing that song, and it means something. Because now every boy can be president.
Right.
In that aspect for me, and that was a highlight of my entire life. I watched people, elderly people, I watched that could barely, seem like they was barely moving, and we was standing there watching and sworn in and the sound of and people hugging and people going through, that happy moment. I'll never forget it. It's one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I had the pleasure of going to his first inauguration. I remember going with a dear friend of mine, and we actually were sitting there on the lawn doing that first inauguration, and I remember seeing Katie Couric and other people running by, so seeing some of the celebrities and other things, but we were right there on that lawn, and just seeing him up there was just amazing. Like I said, I wish I had been even closer, but just being on the lawn there was just amazing, and seeing the fact that we had a brother that was there and being there for that first one. I think we even went on a whim because we didn't even have a ticket. We knew through some of my family connections, and I think they had some connections too, that we might be able to land a ticket, but we went up there with no ticket in hand and still managed to get up there and be on the lawn and actually watch that first inauguration. Did not make it to the second one, but just being there in that historical moment was just momentous, and definitely I can relate to that. I wish I had had an opportunity to do something like y'all did and have a performance aspect to it, but just being there in that environment was wonderful.
It was great. I got a chance. I could say that I actually sang for the vice presidents, their first dance. They danced to "Have I Told You Lately That I Love You," and I sang that song when they did their first dance. So it was like to be able to say from somebody that basically I was a military brat growing up and basically grew up all my life through in Durham, to say that I've actually had the opportunity to sing for 3 or 4 presidents is remarkable and more than I could ever ask for. For me, I look at it and say there's nothing that I can say that I want for, because I was given that at a different standpoint. All of the different things that people say, I wish I would have done this, and I wish I could do this. A lot of that stuff I look at, and it changed my whole perspective of life, because I've met people that are famous, and to have them say that, to acknowledge your talent and acknowledge what you do. And I'm like, dang, I'm sitting up here in a room with Morris Day and the Time, and we're just talking, or standing up. One of the most humbling things I ever looked at is we was playing in Washington, D.C., and LL Cool J, he happened to be with him. We was playing for a wedding. The guy actually went up to the groom went upstairs to work out in the gym. He was running on the treadmill, and LL happened to be there in the working out in the gym too. And he started the conversation, and he said, LL asked him, he said, "What you doing here?" He said, "I'm getting married tonight, and he's going to have a reception downstairs." It's like, okay. So we're on stage and we're performing, and all of a sudden you just hear this roar of the crowd. And they're like, move back, LL's here, LL's here. And I'm like, yeah, right, LL's here, okay, LL, okay. But sure enough, it was LL. And he came down just to wish them, congratulate them to being married. And you see stuff like that, you start looking at people and you start trying to say, well, you read about the tabloids or what this star is doing or what this star is doing and all that, but at the day-to-day, at the end of the day, you start finding out, they're just regular people. We put them on a pedestal so high that we fail to realize that, he's just regular. He's like me and you. So I understand it to a standpoint, because even on a low level, being with the band, there's times when we go out and I'm like, oh, it's great that people know who you are, but it's not always that great when you're trying to eat dinner and somebody, as much as you like them, come up to you and they're like, "You played with me 30 years ago, don't you remember?" And I'm like, no. You know how many people I've seen, but you can't say that. You're like, yeah, and they're trying to make you remember. And when I've seen people like that, I understand what they go through. If I was in the airport and I saw Jamie Foxx one day and he was kind of dressed down, and I looked at him, he could tell that he realized I knew who he was, and you could see the fear. Please don't do that, because if you say something, everybody's gonna run over here and bother me. And I'm like, man, I'm not gonna bother you because I understand. I've been fortunate, and that's all I can ever say. Music has been much better to me than I could ever be to me.
Yeah, and you've definitely had some great pleasures of, like you said, performing with a lot of people. And you're right, you're so right. I've worked with the National Black Theater Festival for a number of years, and I would see people like Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis when they were around, and I would see Mickey Brown, even to this day. They wrote "Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope." She almost treats me like I'm like a great nephew or something like that, because she will reach out to me and ask me if I'm still writing. I haven't probably written anything creative in a number of years, but she'll still wonder if I'm still doing stuff, because she'll remember a conversation we had several years back. I've run into Phyllis Stickney and folks like that, but sometimes when I'll run into people from Durham or other places, and they'll see me, Petrie Bird, who I'm hoping to get on the podcast at some point, but he's the bailiff on Judge Judy, and they'll see me going to his party on a regular basis. They'll be like, "Mark, how do you know these people, and how do you get to conversate with them?" I'm like, hey, like you just said, they're just common folks, and they just want to be treated like common folks. They just want you to handle them, not with a lot of star celebrities. Don't get me wrong. There are a couple of them. I might have mentioned one of their names, but I won't say who that was. Right. But they might have had a little bit of that star celebrity. But for the most part, they just want you to just kind of like sit back and relax and enjoy being with them, but not necessarily putting them treating them like they're royalty or anything. Yeah, they know that they're involved in theater, film, music, whatever, but for the most part, they want to be treated like regular, everyday citizens and things of that nature. And you actually brought up another interesting point, because I'm guilty of doing that sometimes. I think that sometimes we as a people, which I've seen, whether it's you, Tony, whether it's my other friend that you know that we both know, Sharon, whether it's other people like that, y'all definitely y'all make it a point of trying to actually not let opportunities go by. But I think that a lot of times we do let opportunities go by, because I know that I have been guilty of that. There have been jobs that I have wanted, opportunities that I have wanted, and then you sit there and we as people will talk ourselves out of it, and then when the other person gets the job or the posting has gone, we start kicking ourselves. So I think we as a society have a habit of doing that, and then we wonder why you're not doing this or doing that. And it could be something as simple as getting a engagement to run something, or whether it's a facility or a festival or whatever. But I do think that we sometimes talk ourselves out of things, and if I had to give advice to people, that's one of the things I would tell them not to do, is to talk themselves out of things. I mean, look at the whole picture. Look at whether it's going to be beneficial to you. One of the things that I was going to mention, and I'll mention it just now, just in passing, is that, shock of shocks, Zion has announced he's going to the NBA. I think we all knew that was going to happen, even though he said he was going to wait and he wasn't going to do it. But shock of shocks, he has announced. But it does look to me like at least he did examine the picture, see if it was going to be worth it to him, and what it was going to be worth it. And now he's seeing it's going to be worth it. He doesn't want to get in. He was just injured with that little incident with the shoe and everything. So I think that he's realizing, maybe I need to go collect my money now. So I can support his decision. I can also support the decision of my alma mater, because I'm biased, but I went to Marquette, and I was glad that Marcus Howard decided not to go, because he said he's got some unfinished business. He said he's got some unfinished business to accomplish, since they did not win the Big Ten title. They came in second to Villanova and definitely got blown out in the tournament, and did not do as well as they thought they would do, even in the Big East tournament. So I was glad to see that he said there was unfinished business. So on one end, I was glad to see Zion go, and on the other end, I was glad to see Marcus is sticking around, and hopefully some of his cohorts will stick around as well, and maybe we can make a run.
Yeah, well, I'll congratulate Zion for going, but Liquid Pleasure is a Roy Williams supporting band. We are through and through Tar Heels. We have played for and we do appreciate Duke. However, we're Tar Heels.
Oh no, I know y'all are Tar Heels, because there's a place that y'all play regularly. I think y'all have played at least several. I forget, it's like a false fling or something that goes on regularly on the campus, and I know that y'all have played there on a number of occasions.
Yeah, we did Late Night with Roy one year, and we have Carolina blue sequence uniforms. Well, that was when Tyler Hansborough was playing for Carolina. When we did Late Night with Roy, the whole basketball team actually had uniforms made just like ours, and they came out on the middle of the court and pantomimed with us doing the Temptation stuff and the steps and everything. And Roy came out and danced with us. So we're definitely Tar Heels. Although Tar Heels is my great team that I love, but I'm still an Eagle through and through. That's where I went to school at. So Central still always will be my heart.
And Central's got me a little nervous, too, because I have heard that there are rumors that there are some bigger schools looking at LaVelle's, but I'm hoping that LaVelle will stick around, because I like him over there as an Eagle, as a coach of the Eagles, but I also understand that, like Zion, if the opportunities are there, particularly if they're around the North Carolina area or Virginia area, because I don't think that his family's going to let him go but so far away from North Carolina. But I do understand that if he has to make a leap to Davidson or one of these other schools that are nearby, I will support him. But in the meantime, I personally am rooted that he stays around and stays over there at NCCU as the coach there, because he's done a great job getting him to the tournament a number of times. Like many of our HBCUs, gets knocked out in the first round, but at least they make it competitive, and they usually make it at least interesting. But and one of these days they might surprise somebody. I mean, Hampton did it to somebody one year, and Central's probably due for upsetting somebody. I'm thinking it's going to be the year that they come in as a 15. Anytime you were 16, you doomed from Jump Street. So maybe one of these years they'll actually make it as a 15 or a 14 and do like a Hampton and pull off one of these upsets. Now, coming back to the sports, and then I want to get back to the reentry stuff too as we're winding down. Got about another 30 minutes to go, but. Coming back to the entertainment stuff, what do you think is the reason for Liquid Pleasure's success? Because Liquid Pleasure is definitely, when I think of bands around here that are successful, I mean, yes, y'all do covers, y'all have done, I believe, some original work too, but what is it about Liquid Pleasure that makes it such a success? Because that band has been tremendously successful for a number of years, and when people think of people around here that are successful, I would say that they put y'all up there with the Embers and with Doug Clark and the Hot Nuts and certain bands like that. They definitely have just a long reach and a long history, but definitely Liquid Pleasure has had that kind of history. So what is it about y'all that has made y'all so successful? Can all of y'all have regular day jobs, for one thing, because I know you worked in the prison system for a number of years.